welcome to this place. This is a home where no revealed truths are promoted and no scripture or human being accepted as infallible. This is a place for searching for truth. But we are believers. We believe in intellectual freedom. We believe in justice. We believe in compassion and concern for each other and the whole world. We believe in commitment to those ideals which make us caring and active in the struggles for human dignity. We are Unitarian Universalists. And of course I left my 28. Will you join me please in singing hymn number 287? First readings from Richard Dawkins, The God Delusion. One of the cleverer and more mature of my undergraduate contemporaries, who was deeply religious, went camping in the Scottish Isles. In the middle of the night, he and his girlfriend were woken in their tent by the voice of the devil. Satan himself, there could be no possible doubt. The voice was in every sense diabolical. My friend would never forget this horrifying experience, and it was one of the factors that later drove him to be ordained. My youthful self was impressed by his story, and I recounted it to a gathering of zoologists relaxing in the Rose and Crown Inn in Oxford. Two of them happened to be experienced ornithologists, and they roared with laughter. "Manx Shearwater!" they shouted in delighted chorus. One of them added that the diabolical shrieks and cackles of this species have earned it, in various parts of the world in various languages, the local nickname Devil Bird. Many people believe in God because they believe they have seen a vision of him, or of an angel or a virgin in blue, with their own eyes. Or he speaks to them inside their heads. This argument from personal experience is the one that is most convincing to those who claim to have had one, but it is the least convincing to anyone else and anyone knowledgeable about psychology. The second reading is pretty simple. It's the Manifesto for Agile Software Development, and I'll come back to that. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. That is, while there is value on the items on the right, my right, we value the items on the left more. And finally, out of one of my favorite books, Michael Dowd's Thank God for Evolution. Biological life and human life evidence a trajectory, a holy direction. It is no coincidence, nor is it an accident, that greater complexity, cooperation, and interdependence at increasing scale are evident in the DNA and fossil records and throughout human history as well. This does not, however, point to a designer God who has planned the whole thing or who was pulling the strings. Indeed, there is compelling evidence against such a trivialized notion of the divine. The gifts you bring for the work of this congregation shall now be graciously and gratefully received. It's fair to wonder how the readings I chose have any bearing on each other and how they come together in this morning's topic. It's also not surprising how many folks outside our UU community make huge assumptions when they learn that I regularly attend what conveniently goes by the name of church, and how puzzled some of them are to learn that I don't hold the conventional belief in some all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful deity who rules over the universe, controls our destinies, created everything we see, and blah, blah, blah. As one of my classmates years ago in college wrote in a paper she was writing, God made the flood, God made the fire, God made the buttermelt. I just can't bring myself to believe in that kind of deity any more than my sarcastic classmate could. Why, then, does someone like me attend so-called church? Isn't there a contradiction in that? I found that here, in a Unitarian Universalist fellowship, there is no contradiction. And that grasping that answer requires understanding what we mean by such terms as church, faith, and worship. Mind you, this is a perilous journey. The challenge in tackling such a topic is not figuring out what to say, but given the flood of subjects it spawns, which of them to address and which to leave for some other time. I'll try to avoid too many rat holes today. First up, what I mean when I use the terms church, atheist, and faith. Church is by far the simplest one. For a lack of a succinct term, church is the place where I gather with companions to sing, to reflect, to listen, and to interact. I'd prefer a different word, say fellowship, since church has so many liturgical overtones, but so far I haven't found one. I know others in this congregation have a similar opinion. On to the term atheist. To many, atheism is purely rejection, a refusal to believe. I prefer not to emphasize this negative viewpoint. In fact, I prefer to focus on a positive perspective. My notion of atheism is a carefully considered position, not just a simple rejection. To me, the term atheist is purely the sum of its parts. A, the meaning without, and theist, meaning believer in a God, specifically a human-like deity with consciousness and intention. Perhaps humanist would be a better term. I was educated as a scientist. I was taught that we explain the world around us by gathering information, forming hypotheses, that is, tentative explanations, making predictions and testing to see whether those predictions hold up. An explanation, a hypothesis, supported by evidence, is then a theory, the best explanation we have so far for the information that we've collected. It follows then that I have a hard time believing that the earth came into being in 6 days, that a single man was created from dust and a single woman created from one of his ribs, or that a well-respected teacher rose after he was executed and physically walked among the living. Stories like these were written down, copied many times over, and translated into other languages by human beings. They represent what Michael Dowd, in the passage I read earlier, terms a trivialized notion of the divine. The positive flip side, I haven't dismissed faith altogether. Instead, I've come to redefine it. To me, faith consists of accepting certain statements that I know are outside the scope of hypothesis and test. These types of statements form the core of what I feel is a moral existence. The clearest set of statements, though not the only one, is the collection of what we UUs affirm every time we come together, our 7 principles, which I read just a moment ago. Those principles and the sources of our living tradition are to me a far deeper faith than belief in some long-bearded guy sitting on a golden throne up in the sky. I can see and feel the majesty of creation in pictures from the Hubble telescope, which show galaxies which emitted their lights billions of years ago. I can experience transcendent wonder when I read of organisms which thrive in unthinkable environments, such as undersea volcanic vents, or superheated pools in places like Yellowstone Park, or under the Antarctic ice. I also find faith in everyday human interaction, that all people are basically decent by nature. Take my experience when I reached Munich late in February. I arrived in the morning after an overnight flight, but grabbed breakfast at the airport because I wouldn't be able to check into my hotel until later in the day. I had my backpack and a rolling suitcase. The sandwich, pretzel, coffee, and juice I bought were a bit more than I could carry to a nearby table while also rolling my suitcase. A young couple stood next to me. I heard the woman ask, "Darf ich Ihnen helfen? Can I help you?" I was no one to her, but she offered and helped me carry my purchases to a stand-up table nearby. Can you see the divine in a simple act like that? That faith brings me to my second major topic, how the 7 principles echo many of the key elements I found in everyday life and work. As I mentioned, I'm originally a scientist, specifically a chemist. Through the twists and turns of my career, I've ended up working in the area of software quality for regulated medical products, typically medical devices. Glucose meter, dialysis device, infusion pump, or a magnetic resonance imaging system. The classical mindset in that field is that to achieve quality, which includes safety for patients and caregivers, we need to establish and follow strict procedures which lay out a linear sequence of activities to be followed in writing software. Trouble is, software development is almost never linear. We learn how a system behaves as it takes shape, and the people for whom we're designing the system can better express what they need as they see parts of it functioning. The Agile Manifesto, which I read earlier, counters that classical mindset, but just in the past few weeks, I realized it touches on some of our UU principles as well. Consider the spiritual overtones of these statements of value. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. To me, this echoes our notion of individual worth and dignity and puts liturgy and dogma on the back shelf. Working software over comprehensive documentation. The ultimate test of our spiritual maturity is how well we interact. Software teams interact in order to develop software. We interact in order to achieve all sorts of goals, and that interaction itself is the core of our spiritual and moral being, not the edict of some text thousands of years old. Responding to change over following a plan. Yes, I know I've skipped one. The parallel here is with two of our principles: acceptance of one another and a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Our lives are not outlined in some great cosmic plan, predestined as John Calvin thought, but are in our hands to shape as we face the conditions which come along. Take a couple of the 12 principles which the Agile Manifesto authors also set forth. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. Build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. These principles sound like careful rephrasing of our 7 UU principles. Work together and understand each other. Believe that people are positively motivated and encourage them. Allow people to organize themselves and take time to reflect on where we are on that journey. Isn't that what we strive to do here? The third major topic is questioning and searching. Science, the study of natural phenomena, whether physics, chemistry, biology, astronomy, or something else, is all about asking questions and looking for answers. We don't pretend to know all the answers. In fact, much of the excitement in science, to me, is that there's always something else to be explored, some other question to be answered, some other phenomenon we don't yet understand. A key to this exploration is that we must be ready to change our explanations when we obtain and confirm better information. Chemistry came into the modern age when Lavoisier showed, through careful measurements before and after reactions, that the phlogiston explanation was false. The laws of motion and understanding of matter that we had up through the 19th century had to be modified when scientists started experimenting with X-rays and subatomic particles. Biology was turned on its head when Watson and Crick figured out the structure of DNA and put a solid foundation under the work of Mendel, who had showed how traits can be inherited. My point is that when new information arises in science and seems to contradict what we think we know, we're forced to change our explanation. Sometimes that change is a refinement, sometimes it's a revolutionary change. Consider as well the field of quality, which is my professional home these days. The cycle we follow is summarized: plan, do, check, act. What that means is, A, plan the product we aim to create, the characteristics of that product that constitute good quality, and how we are going to work to achieve that quality. Do, carry out the plan, making measurements as we go. Check, that is, review how well we've done in our effort, look at our measurements. Act, modify our method where we see an opportunity to improve how we work. This sequence requires that we be willing to change our approach, our viewpoint, our processes in light of our experience. Recall that one of the Agile principles was that a team regularly reflects on its experience and looks for opportunities to improve. Over dinner some years ago, I got into a discussion about religion, something I normally avoid, with a good friend and colleague from Georgia. Stephen had clearly grown up in a fundamentalist-leaning tradition. He was intrigued to hear about what I, as a UU, consider my foundation. But as we spoke, he became more and more dismayed, at least once asked me how I ever find what he called certainty. I think it shocked Stephen that I accept that no such thing exists, and that life is a constant journey of discovery. Scientific and quality methods have instilled in me a fundamental need to question and to search. So an organization which proclaims a free and responsible search for truth and meaning resonates deeply for me. We here are not bound by some fixed, unchanging text or an absolute creed. In fact, the belief system each of us holds is his or her own responsibility and may differ significantly among us. We accept that difference and are called on to encourage that search and growth in each other. The subject is much larger than I can explore here, much in keeping with that lifelong voyage of discovery. Understanding and acceptance are basic to my reason for being part of this religion. Being a so-called atheist is purely a side note. Unshackling myself from belief in some big guy somewhere up there, in fact, frees me to focus on subjects that matter more: morality, compassion, right relation with peers. The principles we espouse here find parallels in various areas of my life and work. I'm firmly convinced that this is not a coincidence. Questioning and searching, so much a part of my nature, are welcomed and encouraged. No, we don't have absolute certainty or have all the answers. Each of us is on a journey of free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and we covenant with each other every week to serve our fellows in humankind to the end that all souls shall grow together into harmony. That is why this atheist attends church. Will you now join me in singing hymn number 145 as Tranquil Streams? From Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, come these words: believe nothing just because a so-called wise person said it. Believe nothing just because a belief is generally held. Believe nothing just because it is said in ancient books. Believe nothing just because it is said to be of divine origin. Believe nothing just because someone else believes it. Believe only what you yourself test and judge to be true.